Governor Newsom has made it mandatory for people to wear face coverings in public and for all in-person interactions. And joining us to give us his thoughts on the new mandate and other updates in Sacramento is Mayor Darrell Steinberg. Welcome back to the show, Mayor. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Aubrey. Good to be with you.
Well, I just said it, and off camera, you showed me you're carrying around your face covering. They're now mandatory for Californians when they're out and about. Do you think making it mandatory was a necessary action?
I absolutely do. In fact, I thought about making a mandatory ordinance in Sacramento even a couple of weeks ago, and then sort of the events after George Floyd took the rightful attention of the community. But I think it's absolutely correct. Look, we're coming back, and we're not going back to the stay-at-home orders, I don't think, unless the increases are really dramatic. But the only way we're going to be able to keep more people safe is to do that which is common sense, even if it's inconvenient. And, a mask is not a big deal. And it is just not a foolproof way, but an additional way that we can make sure that that people we love, people we don't know, remain safe in our community. So yes, a mandate is important. It should be followed. We're not going to engage in this strict enforcement and ticket everybody who doesn't have a mask. But I hope there are a few examples set, especially with people who violate the order pretty flagrantly, because it needs to be taken seriously.
I agree. Change is hard for a lot of people. And so adapting to something new, putting something on your face, they're a little resistant, but hopefully they do get on board. Now, there is still some confusion since the mandate was made. Clear up and really lay it out. When do Californians need to be wearing a mask?
Well, the rule is that when you are indoors in a public place, you have to be wearing a mask. Now, obviously, if you're at a restaurant, you should be wearing the mask until your food is served, and then obviously you can take off the mask. But certainly in work settings, in other indoor spaces where you cannot be at least 6 feet apart, you have to be wearing a mask. When it comes to the outdoors, you only have to be wearing a mask when you're congregating with people in a way that does not allow you to keep 6 feet apart. And so this is really, again, common sense. If you can stay distant, especially outdoors, you don't have to wear a mask as you're running or you're jogging. But if you're in a group of people, wear the mask. Why would you want to get sick? Why would you want to get other people sick? And yes, there's some people that are making this a political thing, like we're not going to do what the government tells us. That's a bunch of bull. Just do the right thing to keep yourself, your friends, your family, and your community safe. It's a simple requirement. And even if it's inconvenient, you know how they say the new normal? I say we call this the new awkward. This is the new awkward. Big deal. Embrace it, and we'll all be healthier and safer as a result.
Yeah, I know you were telling me you have several masks, which basically these days you need to keep one on hand and have others that you're washing. You also mentioned this isn't something that Sacramento is necessarily going to enforce. I know some stores are trying to enforce it, but we are still seeing a lot of people not wearing the masks in public spaces.
I would say I should clarify that. I don't think the police are going to be arresting people, right? And the citations will probably be limited. But businesses now have the right and the obligation to not let people into their stores unless they are wearing a mask. And so in that way, yes, the mask requirement will be enforced. But the real pressure should be social pressure. And if everyone's wearing a mask around you, or 80% of the people, and you're not, and you're just doing it because you're trying to defy authority or show that you're not going to go along, I hope that other people will look at you and say, come on, man, put on your mask, because, you're risking not only your own health, but the health of other people as well.
And I'm sure you hear it from all sides, but can you share some of the feedback that you've gotten from the community about the requirements? Are more people for it, or are you getting a lot of people that are just like, no way, I don't want to do this?
Well, it's funny. We just did a big community poll, a scientific poll, because we wanted to get the community input around how we should spend our $89 million of coronavirus federal relief funds. And we tested this question, and well over 80% of the people said that they favored a mandatory mask requirement. And that really told me all that I needed to know. I get very little feedback from people who say, don't do it. I think there's always a question about enforcement, and we don't want to turn this, we have a law enforcement force that in some ways doesn't have the time to deal with major crimes, a lot of the major crimes. And so we're not going to create the mass enforcement police here. But again, businesses will not let people in. There's social pressure. And I think the thing about a requirement is it sets an expectation. And with the expectation, I know most people will comply. When I've been out, I was out a little bit over the weekend. I would say about 80% of the people were wearing masks. And I think that's up from what I saw a couple of weekends earlier. And I think the difference is it's now mandatory. It's now required.
What about our business communities? Do you think that it's helping businesses instead of telling customers they need a mask? They don't have to ask them. It's a requirement. So do you think that's helping some of our businesses?
I do. I think it helps businesses in a couple ways. Number one, it really sort of takes the pressure off them, right? To decide, well, should I have a mask requirement or should I not? How are my customers going to feel? Now you can put it on the government. You can put it on the state and the city and say, this is a legal requirement. So I think it takes some of the pressure off them in that way. But the other thing is, it is a way to better assure that we're going to be able to keep businesses and restaurants open. And that's the key here, really. We want people to stay safe and healthy. And we do not want to go back to the stay-at-home orders. And yes, the numbers are up. And yes, that's troubling. But they're not spiking as much as they could be in Sacramento. And I'm very thankful for that. But the future is ours to choose. If we comply with the mask requirement, if we comply with the physical distancing requirement, yes, the numbers inevitably are going to go up some because we've reopened society and the virus is still out there. But it will be able to maintain it in such a way that we won't have to go backwards. And that's really very, very important. We can't afford it economically. I mean, people are already suffering. Working people already have suffered enough unemployment. Small businesses have been hurt enough. We're rushing out $10 million worth of aid for small businesses through our CARE Act, 75%, by the way, for disadvantaged businesses, which is really, really important as we continue our commitment to inclusive economic development. So there's a lot at stake here, and this is minor inconvenience. And the benefit is that people stay healthy and we get to resume at least more of our lives.
I think it's great that you're setting the example, carrying around, wearing your mask. What do you say to people that are like, it's summertime now, I want to get out of the house, but coronavirus is still a very real threat?
I say get out of the house, but just do so in a safe way. I'm out of the house. I'm in the park now. I've had a great workout, but I carry this with me because I know when I'm come close to anybody, I'm putting this thing on outside. And when I'm inside, when I go in any public establishment, I'm going to wear this. And because it's a minor, minor, minor inconvenience. And I know what the benefit is to the people that I love and also the people that I represent. And so I just think we need to keep reinforcing the message. I think people are largely getting it. Again, 80% of Sacramentans favor the mask requirement. I would say, again, when I was out on our street this weekend, going to Shake Shack, I saw about 80% of the people were wearing masks. I want it to be 90 or 100% actually. So we still have work to do, and that's why I'll continue to, just as mayor of the city, to repeat myself that this isn't a frivolous requirement. It's really an important requirement because, lives truly are at stake.
I love it, Mayor. You were out there getting in on the Shake Shack hype. I've got to check that out myself. We appreciate you joining us again today and talking about that mask mandate.
See you next Tuesday, Aubrey, I hope. Thank you.
Take care.
This interview involves commercial content. The products and services featured appear as paid advertising.